And welcome back, YouTube. We just finished the Prologue DLC, I think is what you could call it, for Among the Sleep. We've played through the main game. I think all that's left to do is we're going to check out the museum. But I'm glad that we're playing this game again. I'm glad that there was content that we hadn't seen yet, because I recently went back and watched the last playthrough and played a little bit of the main game again recently, because I still have some achievements I need to clean up. And it made me want to play this game again, so it is cool that there's some stuff that we haven't seen. So this is the museum. I don't know if this will actually have story like the prologue or the main game, or if this just lets you look at different assets from the game.
Hey, and welcome to Teddy's the Museum of Among the Sleep.
Oh, okay.
Go on, take a look around.
So I'm guessing, okay, so this is like an art book. So we got some like concept art. The pitch back then was you're a 2-year-old waking up in the middle of the night and you can see a dark shadow standing in the doorway. Violently tips your cot open. Teddy as a more powerful companion with ways to neutralize enemies with a range of abilities. Looked more like an adventure game than horror. Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a totally different kind of game. Oh wow, they actually had like different kind of enemies. It looks like that looks kind of like a bat. And we got some maybe smaller shadow guys. Use glowing mushrooms as both shelter. This sounds like a completely different game. And that looks like maybe a boss fight? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, the furnace. Enter a life-size dollhouse. One of the threats was an aggressive, hungry furnace. So, although that didn't make the cut in the final game, we just saw a furnace like that in the prologue. Steam-powered machinery. Okay, so there was like a lot of stuff that didn't make it into the final game, and I don't know if that was because of like time restraints or if they just really wanted to dial it back. But like a factory, a mushroom forest, like all that kind of stuff, that's... I don't think most of the stuff that we saw in the game was very much like the inside of a house, but I guess much more abstract and like dreamlike. There was like a forest and playground, but other than that, there wasn't anything like super, I don't know, out there. This is all stuff that I'll have to read outside the stream, but it is kind of fun seeing all the different concept art and seeing like a couple of the things that could have been. Oh, they just straight up got the mom's texture and model. That's cool. Oh yeah, even the child's face is completely black, so you never actually get to see what the kid looks like. I mean, outside of the fact that like the game's logo and like all the concept art of the kid, like you can see his face and his hair and stuff like that, but like the actual model doesn't have a face at all. And like, not that it would, because you're never going to see the kid, because you're playing in first person. So, okay. So, I think all of the enemies represent the mom, right? The first monster, Harold, is supposed to be shrouded in shadows. Because I think we've seen, like, the trench coat and then, like, this version with the spiky hair. But, I think we just assumed they all represent the mom, right? Haida was the mother of a poor little girl. Okay. Heap. Trench coat. So, I guess... I mean, we kind of just, like, we're thinking that the mom was all the monsters, like, all the different monsters and all their different forms was the mom. But, like, they have, like, all these different backstories for them, too. And then, is this where we can play different songs from the soundtrack? Let's just pick a random one. So we have soundtrack and concept art. I don't know, are we able to get into those areas with the holes in the floor? So the playground music has like the children laughing and playing in the background. Which, honestly, it's making me second guess playing that one because walking around here with that is kind of creepy. This kind of reminds me of the walls in Toy Story. Oh, okay, we gotta find a key. Whoa, we run fast! Holy crap, 2-year-old. He's gonna be a Olympic sprinter one day. Alright, is there even a way to open this? Because I don't see any way to open that unless there's a key somewhere else we have to grab and come back here for. This looks like an area we can go in. Oh, hello? Come on. Oh, okay. This looks like an actual museum now.
The Prologue was added as a free DLC a couple of months after release of the game. It was made in collaboration with some of our fans and made to elaborate a little bit on what went wrong with the parents' relationship. That the mother was not simply evil, but rather that relationships are tough, and neither of the parents handled it well.
That's pretty much exactly what I was just saying, because we just played through the prologue. And the prologue definitely added a whole layer, because whereas the main game, you definitely feel like, okay, the mom was pretty much the sole bad guy in the situation. The prologue kind of makes them share part of the blame. So this is like prologue concept art. Oh, these look like the same things, okay. We wanted to approach the prologue chapter differently than the rest of the game by making the environment open instead of a linear path. The players are free to explore the house in the order and pace they choose themselves. Yeah, we also got lost a lot because of that. Alright, so we've seen all these. Oh wow, yeah, so here's the VCR and the radio from the prologue. So is this whole section in the museum dedicated to the prologue then? I like this mug. I kind of want this mug. Oh wow. So that looks like maybe the main house living room. Main house bedroom, perhaps?
Oh, you're home.
Oh, okay.
The team wanted to start with introducing the character of the mother, as well as the mechanics of the game. Starting with the kid's birthday was a way to both introduce Teddy in the form of a gift and showing how old the kid is. When night falls over the home is when you really start seeing the ways in which the child perceives reality while scared. A large part of the game is based on how children see and interpret what's happening around them.
And we said that when we first played the main story, is that it was probably just like how kids view the world. These are screenshots taken from the old house back to when the project was our bachelor thesis in school. The idea behind the layout was pretty much similar, but had a few deviations from the current one. One of our initial concept images, we think it communicates the premise of the game really well, not in-your-face scary or threatening, but the eerie atmosphere created by combining innocent children themes and unsettling dark. Yeah. Yep. So a lot of the things that we observed through playing is what they were intending, which means they did a really good job, like with designing the game to be subtle and like hint at things. This is the very first concept image for Among the Sleep. Back then the project was a little bit different and not as clearly defined, hence the focus was more on the physical monsters and more adventure game type feel. This image was drawn from the inspiration of the exact idea that gave birth to the concept. Yeah, because I think in that book we were looking at, it said something about the original idea of the game, like a monster appears in the doorway and tips the bed over the crib. Another old concept piece from the year we prototyped the game back in school. This one from the living room shows both the moonlit mood and general interior style of the house. We drew these types of concepts before making the house in 3D in order to get a sense of what we wanted the house to look like and make the modeling process faster. So your typical concept art. That makes sense. Holy crap. Lots of concept art. An early idea for this chapter was that it would feel like a surreal in-between world where you could see other dimensions through openings in the walls and bits of them would seep in. I mean, that's kind of like a lot of the game, though, is that, you got all these different biomes clashing while also kind of being connected by things that look like the interior of a house. We scrapped that idea and focused more on the rather lonely and creepy elements of playgrounds, wanting to communicate that the kid had traumatizing memories of being left alone in the playground and subject to the terror of older kids. Oh, hello. That's terrifying. This was that tower that we had to get we had to use the owl statues to tip the seesaw so we can climb up on it. Oh, so they were even drawing, like, maps for the areas, too, to base it off of. The cave chapter has been through a ton of iterations since the start of the project. One thing that has remained the same is that there would be a castle to ascend in order to get to the end. And there would be a musical rainbow-colored bridge. The shape and look of the castle itself has changed several times as we had many different plans for the overall gameplay and it morphed along with these changes. See, that looks kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know if I remember seeing a lot of these things. So I mean, like it said, it's been through a lot of changes. But it says one thing that remained the same. There would be a musical rainbow. Maybe that was a thing. Like I said, I just recently replayed parts of it and watched it, but I don't know why I can't remember that. These are examples of another technique that we use quite often. We take screenshots of the environments that our concept artists draw details and effects like lighting on top of them. This is a cheap way to find out how we want the visuals to end up before starting to produce assets. That's kind of cool. Just take what you already have and mess around with the lighting before actually like doing it with the engine and stuff. Sketches of different ideas, layout, environment designs, and lighting. Let's actually look at some of these. Yeah, the playground was definitely like an interesting area in the game. That was fun going around looking for the owl statues with all like the creepy kids in the background and stuff. Huge tree that you have to climb in order to get to the memory in the castle instead of climbing the tower. The tree was hollow and covered with drawers on the inside walls. Create a staircase opening. Okay, but it says we scrapped it and they still really loved the idea. They had smaller trees that basically did the same thing. You had the smaller trees with the drawers in multiple areas in the main game. So, like, the main thing was the tower, but they still kind of had smaller versions of that. This stump tunnel was unwrapped in ZBrush. Never again. Let's just say we're happy. A lot of the game is dark. Okay. I'm not a developer, so I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah. I mean, the stump itself looks pretty dark, so... There are some of the first concepts trying out an idea of a transformation in the environment, the map showing before and after. Oh wow, they're kind of like moving around. Okay, so like the house over time. I mean, they kind of did the snow concept in the prologue. So it is kind of cool to see like all of these things that they're talking about, like that had changes or got scrapped. Like some of those ideas ended up making it into the prologue. So like forest consuming a house, that's pretty neat though. Oh wow. It is cool to see like the concept art side by side with like in-engine stuff, like how they recreated it and stuff. The painting room, a central hub. Oh, the puzzle pieces, yeah. A golden egg or artifact to get through a magical door. During creating, we took a few steps back and saw this whole sequence wasn't based on the child's experiences. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that you do in the game, like collecting puzzle pieces and owl toys and stuff like in the playground and drawings and stuff, those are all like based off of like stuff little kids would do, like putting a puzzle together or playing with their toys and stuff. I can definitely see how a golden egg might not really fit the theme.
This is the forested home. It's a crumbling home that's slowly rotting away into the water and trees.
It's supposed to change form as a result of puzzles being solved. It would
The
go from
house here is a symbol of the family and home falling apart. The bloated creature inhabiting it is how the kid sees his mother when she's drinking and full of
so
sorrow.
The creatures do still represent the mom. I mean, even if the game doesn't like show the transformation over time of the house becoming forested like they kind of wanted it to do originally, like I still feel like the way they designed the maps, they did a good job like mixing the house elements with the forest elements, even if you don't see the transformation in real time. Claustrophobic feeling of narrow hallways covered with closet doors, being trapped within these. Oh yeah, there was a lot of like clutter in this later part of the game. And twisting hallways that didn't make any sense. The star door was always a central part of the chapter. Yeah, because like I feel like the moon door. Hi, Mom. I feel like the moon door was kind of more like a to show you how to use like the key to open the door, because you get the moon and then I think you immediately use it on the moon door. But you see the star door way before you actually collect the star key, I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, we saw that, like an area exactly like that in the main game. Because I'm pretty sure at first I climbed or crawled under the table before realizing we had to go back and go up on the table. Yeah, so this is... Yeah, the room with the moon key. You throw something, get the moon key. So it is very interesting. A lot of the... I mean, when it comes to, like, shows, movies, video games, a lot of times the concept art will just give you, like, a very basic concept, vague idea of what they want. And then, like, it'll go through a lot of changes once it's finally implemented. But it does look like, in a lot of areas, the concept art is pretty close to a one-to-one what actually ended up in the game. Like, they did a good job taking that concept art and just putting it in the game engine. We all voted for Teddy we liked best and ended up with a look that was fairly close to the current one, while hinting at the fact that this was the father's beloved Teddy. Okay, I never knew that though. So like, we know that we got the Teddy from our dad, and that the Teddy talking to us kind of represents the dad. But I didn't know that it was the dad's Teddy that he had as a kid. But I guess that makes sense when you look at it, because he's kind of worn out. He's got the patches and the rips. So I guess it was never a brand new Teddy. I don't know what the heck this thing is, though. I don't remember ever seeing that. Now, this one is an old relic. The story, and particularly how the game ended, was very different in the early days of production. Back then, Teddy was the antagonist of the game. You know what's funny about that is when we first started the game, very early on in my playthrough, there was a lot of moments where I was like, okay, the Teddy is making me uncomfortable, like telling us to get in the closet, and just like the way he was saying things was very unnerving. So it is kind of interesting to know that there was a period where he was the antagonist. The story was that the broken family situation made the child vulnerable, and an evil entity, a monster disguised as a friendly teddy bear, took advantage. Okay. Serious topics like these aren't much talked about in video games. We felt compelled to make a creative game around this and saw the potential to make a much more meaningful story. That is very interesting. Like I said, the story of this game is like very, like, you know, deep, like real world stuff that people don't really, you know, put into games and stuff because it's a heavy subject matter. But I'm glad that they did it, because I feel like they did it with enough tact where it's not like offensive, in my opinion. I don't remember ever seeing a creature like that before. Was that in the prologue? These all seem like prologue things right here. The mother was one of the first characters that we designed. Her 3D model was remade and tweaked a few times, but overall she has remained very similar throughout the entire production. The blueprint and model renders is how she looked when it was still a school project. The goal of her design was always to find a look of loving kindness and care for her. Despite her personality transformation and neglect, she never stopped loving her child. It is sad, especially after playing the prologue, that you know, like, even at the end of the game, when she's, like, pushing you away and stuff, you still kind of feel for her. Like, you know that she doesn't want to be like that. And I guess, you know, no mother, for the most part. There are some bad moms, but, like, no mother, for, you know, intends to harm their child. Or, you know, to be mean to them. One idea for Teddy was that he could equip items that granted him abilities. Some of those were dragon mask that made him breathe fire, a sword he could fight with, a mage's hat that gave him spells, and a wristband great strength. Yeah, this definitely sounds like it originally was a very different game, because earlier we read that thing that said that Teddy was gonna be able to do stuff to defeat enemies. I'd say at this point, the game's current iteration, there's puzzles and stuff, and you have to collect stuff, but it's very much a walking simulator. You know, you get chased a few times, but there really is no, like, combat or platforming other than, like, climbing on stuff. So it is interesting what the game could have been. Creatures that were designed very early in production. There wasn't a sudden decision to cut these from the game. They all naturally phased out as we gradually shifted the game's genre from an adventure game with horror elements into what the game is today, which is kind of the exact opposite. Yeah, it's kind of like what we were just saying. Alright, so these are things that weren't in the game. What worlds did these rejected creatures inhabit? Well, this is a very rudimentary map. First environments reflected more of an adventure or quest, exploring an ominous, threatening world, yet more whimsical. Behind the house was a forest. The forest led to a meadow, the meadow into a thorny jungle with odd one-eyed monkey-looking things out to get you if you didn't stay in the light of the luminescent mushrooms. So is that thing that I thought was a bat, is that one of the monkey monsters then? Yeah, this is like 100% like a completely different game. And I feel like, wow, that's creepy. I feel like that would have also taken just so much extra work. Like, some of these environments look huge and they're varied, and like implementing all that combat and abilities. Like, I'm sure a lot of it was cut out to more, you know, make a more grounded story and stuff, but I wonder how much stuff was cut just because it would have been very time consuming to implement it all. Life-size dollhouse. Yeah, we read about that. Creepy doll stalking in the dark. No, thank you. We already did Spooky's dollhouse. We're kind of done with the creepy dollhouses for now. Have we been in here? Live Fluffy Productions. Thanks for stopping by, and thank you for the follow. How are you doing, Liv? We're just exploring the Among the Sleep Museum, kind of seeing all the cut stuff that didn't make the final game, and then things that were transformed from one thing and kind of became what was in the final game. It's very interesting. This elevator is an example of a sadly wasted time since we scrapped everything. It is designed to be fully functional, steam-powered elevator, in theory at least. Yeah, I think they said something about there being like a steampunky factory. Stopping before I move, I'm watching for people to get here. No worries. Thank you for being here. It's good to have you. These are concepts that showcase the mood and feel of what we wanted the last chapter Among the Sleep to be. The core idea was a brass and bronze pipes and tubes lit up by fires on rocky surfaces surrounded by completely pitch black darkness and void. A lot of machinery. End up in a cauldron? So the evil antagonist, I wonder if that was still when Teddy was... Well, okay, so I wonder at what point did they change Teddy from being the antagonist? Because, again, Among the Sleep, is that the one where you... Yes, you play as a 2-year-old, and you kind of, like, see the world through, like, how a kid imagines the world and, like, all the horrors. I won't spoil anything, but, it gets into some deep family stuff. It's very good. But, I'm wondering at what point did Teddy switch from the antagonist, because... you know, there was the period where he would have abilities to defeat enemies, so I don't know if when they conceived this factory thing, if that was still Teddy the enemy, or if that was going to be something else.
Originally, the chase for the mom was a MacGuffin. You did not really find her, and the monsters used her to lure you further into the dreamlands. And we struggled for some time to make sense of this story, especially the playtesters were confused as the story ended without you seeing your mom again. Originally, the chase for the mom was a MacGuffin.
Most of the
You
time,
did
he
not
usually
really
has like
find
a
her,
second
and the
thing to
monsters
say if
used
you
her
wait
to
for a bit.
lure you further into the dreamlands.
Did we already do a full lap?
And we struggled for some time to make sense of this story, especially the playtesters were confused as the story ended without you seeing your mom again.
We didn't miss anything. No, that's where we first entered from. Was we crawled through that hole in the bookshelf. So what's over here then? Oh wow. Have we been in here? Oh no, we have. Okay, it just kind of loops in on itself. So I think we've gone through all the rooms of the museum. Oh no, we haven't gone in here yet because we crawled through that hole at first. So this is the room that you all, like the playhouse that you always stop by whenever you collect a memory. That takes you to the areas.
My favorite place. I felt we really connected here, you know? A bit of a breather between the various bad, nightmarish worlds we went to. Also, I was able to talk a lot here, as elsewhere the developers were concerned about keeping the tension up and didn't want me to say too many things.
I suppose Teddy's
Also,
with you the whole
I kind
game.
of get quiet when scared, so it's okay and all, but I liked best the times we had to catch up.
Yeah, you know, now that he says that, he doesn't talk, like, pretty much at all, despite the fact that he's with you the entire time. Can we go in here? Is this kind of like the, pretty sure near the end of the game, right before you find your mom, it's kind of like in an area with flickering lights and you see her for a sec before she disappears. Represents feelings. Inside Out? Even with the colors and everything? Okay, so this is like concepts for this memory area. I feel like I don't know if there's like a specific end to the museum or if it just keeps circling around. But I feel like we've gone through all the areas now. Oh, okay, this is just... Oh no, this is different. This Teddy was not just here a second ago when we were just in this room.
This is the reveal. This is where you see your
Spoilers.
mother for what she is, and the player gets to connect the various monsters and sights through the game.
Welcome to the world that has bit the dust? Okay. Oh, because this is... Yeah, this is the level that just completely didn't get used at all. I don't even think any of these assets really got implemented. Like, a lot of the things that we've seen that were scrapped, they got reworked in some sort of way, or like most of their stuff was implemented in some capacity, but as far as like a steampunk factory, I don't think that was ever a thing. Now, I don't know if we were supposed to find a key throughout this, if there even is a way to open that chest that we saw, but I think we've viewed all of these rooms so I think with that, we're officially done with all the stuff in Among the Sleep. We've played through the main story, we played through the prologue, and we checked out the museum. I know that I sped read through a lot of things and we didn't read a lot of the stuff or went through the art really fast. That was mostly for the sake of this stream and the recording. I do promise you that I fully intend to more in-depthly in my own time go through this museum and actually read through everything, take my time to study all the stuff, because I find this fascinating. I really think that the developers did a really great job coming up with the concept, taking the concept art and stuff and putting it into the game in like a meaningful way. And I really appreciate this game a lot, so there's a lot I want to learn about it. But I do appreciate all of you guys being here. Thank you for watching this whole series on Among the Sleep, and I really enjoyed this game a lot. I'm glad that we got to return to it after all these years, after we played the main storyline. It just helped me to remember how much I really appreciate this game and the message that it tried to tell. But thank you guys again, and I'll see you in the next game that we play.